Lune Plage outside Dunkirk, part chemical industrial complex, part beach. The launching point yesterday for a tragedy resounding across Europe. 27 people dead, including 7 women, one of whom was pregnant. 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. There were 2 survivors, an Iraqi and a Somalian, found in the water with extreme hypothermia. They were the lucky ones, as was this 23-year-old Afghan man who set off a few hours before them along the same stretch. Miles out to sea, filmed on his phone, water coming in, rescued by the French. When you heard about all of these people that drowned, just a few hours after you set off, what was going through your mind?
C'est la vie, quand on entre avec, dans les bateaux, on ne peut pas dire on va aller 100% en Angleterre. On pense c'est mourir aussi, 90%, 80% chance, par exemple, nous dit c'est mort.
Although hard to hear, there is a tragic inevitability to all this, as we discovered at another launch yesterday morning.
2 nights sleep jungle, no milk, no water, no life.
Endless demand, dysfunctional asylum systems exploited by international smuggling networks. It's these networks that European leaders want us to be talking about. 5 smuggling suspects have been arrested off the back of yesterday's tragedy, including a man detained last night who was driving a German-registered vehicle packed with inflatable dinghies. The French Interior Minister said today that many of the people who ended up on the small boats were travelling quickly via France from other countries.
Ces migrants, ils viennent en grande partie d'ailleurs.
These migrants come from elsewhere, 70% from Belgium. Very often, they go through Germany, they go through the Netherlands, they go to Belgium, and the smugglers pick them up and try in a few hours, in a few days, to bring them to the beach.
Throughout this year, Britain has blamed France for not preventing enough crossings. The French say Britain's broken asylum system incentivises these journeys. Today, the Home Secretary reiterated the offer of joint patrols on French beaches.
And I've once again reached out and made my offer very clear to France in terms of joint France and UK cooperation, joint patrols to prevent these dangerous journeys from taking place.
Joint patrols are a sticky issue when it comes to sovereignty and operational control. President Macron today defended the French response.
Et combien notre mobilisation est totale.
Our commitment on our coast is absolute. Just yesterday, there were over 1,000 crossings and attempted crossings, and more than 2/3 of those were prevented. And since January, 7,800 rescues have been conducted.
Both London and Paris acknowledged that there was no silver bullet to this, and both sides talked about European-wide cooperation. The emphasis today, though, was on securing borders and smashing the smuggling networks. In other words, arrest your way out of the problem. But here's the thing. The 23-year-old Afghan we spoke to, who tried to cross on the same day 27 people died, has had his asylum claim rejected in France, so tries again for the UK, a sort of asylum-seeking fugitive. He first came to France when he was 16 years old. So you were in Calais in 2007 during the big jungle in Calais?
Yeah, big jungle in Calais.
And how did you, back then, how did you try to get across?
Camion.
On the lorries?
Well, yeah.
I see. And so, before you tried on the lorries, but now the little boats?
Yes, but now the boats are out of the question. It's too dangerous.
This man, in other words, the very embodiment of years of tangled up immigration policy across multiple countries.
And Porrick, you're still here, thank goodness. There's something else happening tomorrow, isn't there, which is a French fishermen's strike due to possibly blockade the Channel Tunnel and this port here and other ports along the coast. I mean, this is not exactly helping, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, we were speaking of intractable problems earlier. Another one presents itself tomorrow. French fishermen saying that they're going to blockade not only the port, but the Channel Tunnel with trucks and the port itself with fishing boats. It's part of this ongoing dispute over the issuing of licences post-Brexit. Now, there's always a degree of sort of brinkmanship when it comes to declarations of blockades like this. But if it does happen, and it's still an if, you could see miles of queues. running up along the length of the entrance to the Channel Tunnel. And as you say, Calais Port all blocked up tomorrow.
Yeah, not helping. Paul O'Brien, thank you very much indeed. Well, let's talk now to Frank Dersin. He's mayor of Tettegem-Coudekerque village. I hope I pronounced that correctly. An area close to Dunkirk, which is up the coast here, not far from here. And of course, that's where the disaster, yesterday's disaster, happened. He's also, by the way, responsible for transport on the regional council of this part of France. Frank Dersin, thank you very much for coming on the programme. There is a common accusation now in London and indeed the UK being levelled at the French government that the French authorities are simply not doing enough to prevent the boats from leaving across the channel. What is your response to that accusation?
It's not true. You know, I am a mayor of Tettegem, and when I have a problem in my city, robbery, violence, I call the police, and the police say, no, it's impossible to call in your city because all the French policy are on a beach between Dunkirk and Grande Sainte and Lone Plage and Calais. So it's not true. Many policemen are on the beach, but it's impossible to cover 100 kilometers 24 hours per day. So it's a bad accusation.
Okay, so would you then welcome the suggestions from the British government that they would send British police officers and customs officers over to France to help you, you know, with more men and women patrol this coastline?
You know, France made one thing, it's only in the world, you know, the border of Great Britain is in France. We can see that nowhere in the world. So it's a big effort about France. You have to understand that. So the French policemen are alone in France. It's not possible to have English policeman with a gun. Imagine French police in England with guns. No, it's not possible to do that.
But why not? But why not, Franck Desier? Because it's in our joint interest to try and stop these boats from getting across the channel, to try and stop the smugglers. Why not have British officers helping French officers here on the coast?
Ask to the Minister of Interior, ask to Mr. Darmanin. I'm only a Vice President of the region. This power don't belongs to me. But, you know, I have one thing to say to you. If we have so many smugglers in France, it's because we have in England, in London, the chiefs of smugglers. So you have responsibility, you, the government, the English government, you have the responsibility to catch the chief of the smuggler. He spend and he wash the money, billions of euro in the city, in the bank, in London, and they bought a pizzeria, hotel, restaurant, apartment. Why the government do nothing?
There's no evidence. There is just no evidence at the moment to suggest that the people running this human traffic are all the bosses, the chiefs are all based in London. That's just made up, isn't it?
You know, many smugglers talk to me and they say they spend the money to the chiefs in England and you know, they wash the money. It's easy to catch this guy. You know, you remember how you catch Al Capone? It's one thing. You have to control the money of this guy, how he spends the money. So, and if you put in the prison the chief, so you don't have any more smugglers in France and you don't have any more problem.
All right, got to leave it there. Franck Dersin, thank you very much indeed for joining us.